Physically, Plo Koon was an elderly Keldor male. As detailed in the New Essential Guide to Alien Species, Keldor were helium breathers who required anti-oxygen masks and goggles when in standard atmospheres. Between his hardy anatomy and his breathing equipment, Koon was capable of surviving short-term vacuum exposure. However, the mask is a proven vulnerability in close combat, as Koon will quickly suffocate without it. Otherwise, Koon possessed the standard Jedi training background, raised from infancy in the ways of the Force, though he supplemented this by cross-training with the Barrandau sages later in life. Kit Fisto specifically noted that Koon possessed the strength and flexibility of youth, most visibly demonstrated when he manhandled criminal thugs with hand-to-hand combat during a riot in the Mabardi prison. Though he favored grounded footwork, Koon was capable of incredible feats of agility when necessary, covering vast distances with force leaps. Though he favored timing and precision, he demonstrated incredible dexterity and movement speed when he cleaved through a massed formation of battle droids within mere seconds. However, Koon was the first to admit that his age had left him brittle-boned. Though Koon and Fisto managed to survive an avalanche on Korm by creating a protective bubble with telekinesis, Koon still came away with a broken arm, and spent the remainder of the mission with only one hand free. Plo Koon stands as a Tier 3. On the one hand, he was a high-level athlete with well-rounded performance attributes, capable of functioning comfortably in any role required of him. But on the other, his species' attributes were a mixed bag, and age had reduced him to glass. Basically, an over-the-hill Tier 2. Plo Koon was originally confirmed as a Form 5 specialist in the Force Unleashed novelization, with the TCW campaign guide confirming Xi'an, and the TCW Adventures MMO confirming Gemso and Ataru. Koon's singular lightsaber technique alternated between soft Xi'an and hard Gemso, while Ataru informed his acrobatics and hand-to-hand combat. Koon led nascent Republic forces to victory during the Stark Hyperspace War, coordinating their defense and leveraging his telepathy to resolve the conflict. He survived the Arena Massacre on Geonosis and stepped up as a Republic general during the Clone Wars. On Aridka, Koon effortlessly cleaved through legions of battle droids and coordinated with surviving clones to destroy 2 CIS mobile weapon emplacements. Alongside Kit Fisto, he put down the Mabardi prison riot orchestrated by Dirge, subduing numerous criminal thugs with hand-to-hand techniques, though the Jedi only barely scraped by against Dirge himself. After his fleet was destroyed by the Malevolence above Abrigado, Koon led a squad of surviving troopers against a CIS pod hunter and leveraged his telekinesis to destroy the enemy. He devised the Republic strategy when destroying a nascent separatist outpost on Felucia, leading one of the clone strike teams, and later masterminded Adi Gallia's rescue from General Grievous. On Korm, he tussled with Asajj Ventress twice. When she ambushed him in the wilderness, he initially repelled her assault, but was caught off guard when she broke off and triggered an avalanche with telekinesis. When they had their rematch in the Separatist base, Koon was handicapped by a broken arm, yet he still managed to keep her at arm's length, even disarming her of one of her blades. On Pleam's Nexus, Koon was pit against Savage Opress and managed to score multiple hits, but Opress managed to create a distraction, using the opening to rip off the Keldor's breather. Overall, I place Plo Koon as a Tier 2 martial artist. Each of the lightsaber forms in his repertoire provided an additional layer of functionality, allowing him to drastically reconfigure his fighting style by alternating between compatible techniques. Quite simply, the only times Koon failed to subvert the opponent was when the opponent beat him to it. Though he could be distracted or blindsided, Koon typically dominated the combat by leveraging his strength down the path of least resistance. As detailed in the Power of the Jedi sourcebook, Plo Koon trained as a Jedi Guardian and was apprenticed under the Wookiee Master Tyvaka. Discussed in Fate of the Jedi Outcast was his later cross-training with the Barrandau Sages of Doran. Detailed in the Essential Guide to the Force was Koon's innate ability with Force Lightning, which he refined into the Jedi variant Electric Judgment. As a Keldor, Koon was innately telepathic, an ability that proved instrumental during the Stark Hyperspace War. His Force bond with his niece allowed him to communicate with the Jedi Council from halfway across the galaxy, and he managed to negotiate an end to the conflict with the original instigator, Eako Stark. Additionally, his use of Force Heal to treat wounded combatants endeared him to the previously humanocentric army assembled by Ranulph Tarkin. Furthermore, Koon was noted for his use of alter environment to create fog and ice, notably summoning a mist to hide his position during the Yinchori crisis. A master of telekinesis, Koon demonstrated his magnitude when he triggered a cave-in on Troikan during the Stark Hyperspace War, and when he hurled a Droch-class pod hunter through space during the Clone Wars. He demonstrated his viability against other Force adepts when he penetrated Asajj Ventress's TK barrier on Korm, repelling her with a Force push, and ending the fight by targeting her detonator remote. Koon combined his power with Kit Fisto on 2 separate occasions, using a boulder to trap Dirge in the Mabardi prison and creating a Force bubble to survive an avalanche on Korm. When hostage negotiations with Aurra Sing and Boba Fett on Florrum exploded into violence, Koon deftly used telekinesis to practically stage manage his opponents. Overall, I place Plo Koon as a Tier 2 Force wielder. He balances a comprehensive array of standard Jedi techniques with various alternative disciplines, capitalizing on both his innate capabilities and circumstantial factors. Though prodigiously strong in the Force, he favored calculated applications of power that produced maximum effect for minimal effort. Even when truly caught off guard, he typically bounced back by keeping his defensive bases covered. Plo Koon's overall rating is Tier 2, determined by the average set by his lightsaber skills and Force abilities. In fact, we on the Fanalysis Council consider Plo Koon to be an archetypal example of a Tier 2 combatant, alongside Obi-Wan Kenobi and Shaak Ti. All 3 combatants employed a balanced array of techniques that allowed them to drastically reconfigure their approach based on the situation and the opponent, expertly exploiting circumstantial factors to undercut the enemy. Though age had undercut his physical hardiness, leaving him brittle-boned, his athletic performance remained top-notch, more than enough to enable his combat skill. His total mastery of Form 5 provided a comprehensive and varied lightsaber technique, while his core physical component was fleshed out by his Ataru training. He fully capitalized on his Force talent by mastering both standard and non-standard abilities, leveraging his strength for maximum effect. Koon was by no means a flawless combatant, his bouts with Savage Opress and Asajj Ventress demonstrating that he could be outwitted or surprised, and his physical frailty remained an issue. However, such oversights were the exception to the rule, and Koon never fell for the same trick twice. Plo Koon had his limits, but his strategic insight and developed skill ensured that they rarely came up. Sora Bulq was a Weequay male of unspecified age, though likely middle-aged within the time frame of the Clone Wars. As detailed in the New Essential Guide to Alien Species, the Weequay boasted a dense skeleton and tough leathery skin, making them resilient against blunt trauma, cuts, and burns, and putting them in high demand as physical combatants. Bulq had the typical training background for Jedi of his era, raised from infancy as a Jedi initiate, and came into his own as a reigning lightsaber master. His high dexterity was expressed through his dual saber technique, fighting evenly with Mace Windu, while his strength was leveraged through his single saber technique, which allowed him to overpower Master Thulm with relative ease. His agility was leveraged through acrobatic lunges and evasions, which notably allowed him to dodge a flurry of Force-thrown glass shards. Bulq has only been subdued by catastrophic hits, nervous system overloaded by Force lightning, Force thrown against a brick wall hard enough to shatter it, or carved through the chest with a lightsaber. With an overall rating of Tier 1.5, Sora Bulq is in the same boat as Darth Maul and Galen Marek. His robust, non-human anatomy allows him to soak up severe punishment, giving him an edge over most opponents, but his athletic performance is merely equal to a human's, leaving him with no direct advantages. A cut above without being truly superhuman. Sora Bulq's now defunct entry in the StarWars.com databank confirmed his status as a reigning lightsaber instructor with an extensive skill set, and a practitioner of the exclusive Vapad variant. In Jedi Mace Windu, the original master himself considered Bulq's technical grasp only slightly below his own, though his after-action report presented in the Essential Guide to the Force reflected a much dimmer view of Bulq's application in light of his fall. Armed with a standard lightsaber and an offhand Shoto, Bulq alternated between traditional single-saber and Jarkai dual-saber combat. His twin-saber technique was exhibited in his mock duel with Asajj Ventress and allowed him to fight evenly with Mace Windu, though Dooku managed to subvert it. On the other hand, Bulq's single-saber technique had the dominant edge over Master Thulm in both of their engagements, though he overextended against Quinlan Vos. Bulq demonstrated his strategic planning ability when he led the Confederacy defense during the Siege of Seleucami, and masterminded the assassination of Jedi Master Oppo Rancisis. However, whenever his plans were derailed or he was dropped into a situation cold, his knee-jerk response was violence. The best example was when Windu uncovered the deception on Rule, and Bulq decided to turn the false flag operation into a massacre. I rate Sora Bulq as a Tier 3 swordsman, in the same mold as Anakin Skywalker. On the one hand, he boasted a level of developed skill legitimately comparable to the reigning masters of his era, but on the other, he wielded this skill as a blunt instrument, his tactlessness allowing various opponents below his own level to get the better of him. My belief is that Sora Bulq was a much more effective combatant as a Jedi, functioning as an offense-oriented Obi-Wan Kenobi by juggling his various style proficiencies, going for the throat by the path of least resistance. Though his unrestrained dark side channeling no doubt boosted his performance and output, it badly undercut his tactical awareness and ultimately reduced him as a combatant. Jedi Mace Windu featured Grandmaster Yoda's appraisal of Sora Bulq, specifically noting Bulq's strength in the Force and his balanced nature. As a reigning swordmaster, he likely trained as a Jedi Guardian, heavily emphasizing physical combat. As a practitioner of Vapad, Bulq believed that he heightened the Form 7 variant by embracing the dark side, driving lightsaber combat with dark rage. However, Bulq never demonstrated any ability with classical Dark Force powers such as Force Lightning, nor did he possess any defensive measures against such powers, shown when Dooku casually disabled him on Bakura. An adept telekinetic, Bulq successfully penetrated the force defenses of Mace Windu and Quinlan Vos, as well as influencing the environment for tactical advantage, triggering a laser gate security door with a lightsaber throw. Though Windu's ability to ragdoll Bulq could easily be chalked up to Windu's superior power, it is consistent with the typical vulnerability suffered by Form 7 stylists, and the logical drawback of such unrestrained Dark Force channeling: high output, weak defense. Bulq demonstrated his skill as an infiltrator when he successfully concealed his dark side signature from the assembled Jedi on Rule, and later when he backstabbed Oppo Rensisis on Seleucami, albeit with the aid of several Anzadi assassins. However, Bulq had difficulties when it came to rooting out infiltrators. He caught a whiff of Aayla Secura's presence on Anzat, though he was forced to abort the search. He managed to root out Thom first time out on Seleucami, but was unable to prevent his escape and failed to detect him thereafter. Sora Bulq ranked as a Tier 3 Force wielder. His power was undeniable, but his skill set was narrow and his applications blunt. While there are compelling examples of Bulq using tactical brilliance to enable and maximize his Force abilities, this is another aspect that was undercut by his dark side channeling. Windu described Bulq as mastered by Vapad, a far cry from the balanced nature described by Yoda. Sora Bulq's overall rating is determined by the average set by his lightsaber skills and Force abilities, making him a Tier 3. His weak-way anatomy allowed him to soak up punishment, but his athletic performance was no greater than human, giving him no direct advantage over most enemies. His lightsaber skills and weapon set were extremely comprehensive, versatile, and high performance, while his traditional core Force abilities were proven effective for tactical subversion, but Bulq wielded both as blunt instruments. My belief is that prior to his fall, Bulq was effectively the Jedi Order's answer to Blade Master Kasim, cleverly cycling through his various techniques for tactical advantage, going for the throat by the path of least resistance. However, though channeling the dark side with such intensity made him a devastating offensive heavyweight, it badly undercut his tactical viability, ultimately reducing him as an overall combatant. Though an effective strategic planner, Sora Bulq's emotional instability left him prone to sadism and bloodlust, and his knee-jerk response was violence. Regarding this matchup's title, I freely admit that I was scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to come up with one, as there is so little in common between Plo Koon and Sora Bulq. I eventually settled on the tenuous connection in their common reputations as lightsaber instructors and their rigid adherence to their respective ideologies, and I still feel like I could have done better. As to why I bothered with the title at all, that was simply to maintain internal consistency within my Strikezone series. Strikezone videos have titles. As to why I bothered with this matchup at all, I did it on a passing interest. The Strikezone series is specifically for those matchups that I want to talk about, but I'm not willing to commit to making a full 45-minute video for. In his own Versus Series entries, Ready4 speculated that Plo Koon was a student of the Teräs Käsi and Benduki sliding hands martial arts, based on his training with Bolter Swan, a confirmed expert in these disciplines. While I agree with this speculation, I chose not to mention it in either my post-mortem assessment of Plo Koon or in the matchup proper, as the post-mortem analyses is centered around confirmed skills and feats, while Plo Koon vs Sora Bulq was an abridged Strikezone video with a condensed analyses. Some have commented that Sora Bulq prior to his fall was likely superior to Plo Koon as a lightsaber duelist, and I actually agree with this. As I already stated, I believe Sora Bulq was originally the Jedi Order's answer to Blade Master Kasim, a figure I do believe could defeat Plo Koon. Unfortunately, embracing the dark side badly undercut Bulq, reducing a savvy offensive stylist into a mouth-foaming berserker. While Sora Bulq is swinging hard enough that the idea of him overpowering Plo Koon is not outside the realm of possibility, Bulq's tactlessness combined with Koon's experience makes this the true Jedi's game.